Now, into the ticket office of Disneyland.
Oh boy, let's do this.
Don't think the CIA is going to be trying to hack your second-gen iPod.
I didn't think so. There might have been a lot of illegal music on there. I wouldn't doubt it. But, I mean...
You were supposed to bring death to the flagships, not join them.
Google has found a new way to piss me off.
iTunes is a constant source of embarrassment.
Behind-the-scenes camera crap.
Here, tell us about courage, Phil. Tell us about courage.
I am Nadella. I can't do it anymore without laughing. I was going to do the whole thing.
Welcome, everyone, to the Calling All Platforms podcast. I am your host, Wes, and I'm here with Landon.
Hello.
And Caleb.
Yay.
And we are here to talk all things tech this week. And some fails, what I'm seeing here on our notes.
Oh, gosh.
You know what? Let's get into this, because, man, we got a little bit to talk about here. Looks like on our Apple News, we have a lot of iPhone issues.
Yes. So, listener, Apple announced some new iPhones.
What?
You cast your mind back a couple of weeks. So, these iPhones began arriving to customers the very end of last week. And over the past week, a number of, let's call them issues, have been uncovered. And at this point, I have heard so many new gates. Like, you know, we had back in the iPhone 6 days, we had Bend Gate and stuff like that. Like, every time Apple releases a product that has some kind of issue with it, then everybody wants to, oh, this is the new, like, horrible thing, Antenna Gate on the iPhone 4 and so on and so forth, right? There's too many. I've heard Titanium Gate. I've heard Thermal Gate. I've heard, I don't know that the glass one was, but let's just go through a list of all of the potential gates that have popped up for the iPhone over the past week. So, first of all, 15 Pro has demonstrated a number of concerning thermal issues that were wide enough among the people who had the phone to warrant an actual response from Apple. What people were seeing was stuff like after they would get the phone set up, it would just get hot doing basic crap like checking your calendar or like your email and stuff, like just really simple garbage that should not be taxing the phone at all. It would get hot enough that it was uncomfortable to hold. And I heard not more than a few instances where people got the "your phone is too hot to operate and is going to shut down now" message that you normally get if you leave your phone in, like, on the dashboard of your black car with the windows closed on a 100-degree day outside. That's normally when you get that message, when you did something stupid. These people were, like, checking their email, and that was happening. So, like, bad thermal issues. The phones were not handling it well. Also, the 15 Pro, a lot of conversation, a lot of complaints about the titanium rim on the titanium frame rail around the outside of the Pro phones, getting dirty exceptionally fast, having the finish of it, their brushed titanium finish, having a pretty low resistance to obtaining new scratches and that sort of thing, and just in general picking up fingerprints really easily and being very difficult to wipe those fingerprints off. So even harder to keep clean than the glossy stainless steel frame on the old ones, which is that's baffling. I don't know how you make a frame rail that's harder to keep clean than that, but okay, good job. Also, on the Pro phones, most of this is affecting the Pro phones, which I think is actually kind of poetic in its own way. But the Jerry Rig Everything video, in which we discovered that, yes, it actually is very easy to scratch the titanium frame rail. He went to do his bend test, and just by applying, like, not even an unreasonable amount of force to the back glass of the phone, it just shattered. There were a number of other durability tests, mostly people doing drop tests on the phone, that indicated that the back glass on especially the Pro Max, and that was the one that Jerry Rig Everything managed to break with his thumbs, is just exceptionally fragile. Like, oh, don't put this in your back pocket. You are going to shatter the back glass of the phone, which it's been a while since that was a serious concern for iPhone customers.
Yeah.
Like, so, okay, cool, fun. Also, this one is exciting. The USB-C battery packs, kind of hit and miss, right? So Apple put a USB-C port on their phones, and this one applies to both the Pro and the standard 15 phones. Turns out pretty much any battery bank you've got that has a USB-C port for power delivery, you can't use USB-C to USB-C to charge these things unless, like, it's a pretty smart battery pack, because Apple's protocol for their implementation of the USB-C spec, they're actually trying to talk to the battery pack to initiate charging, right? And I think it's because of their reverse charging feature, the thing that allows you to charge your AirPods and stuff like that off of the thing. It wants to talk to the battery pack to basically find out, oh, do you have more battery than me, or do you have less battery than me? And stuff like that. And if the battery pack isn't smart enough to talk back, which the vast majority of them are not, it's kind of hit and miss whether or not, like, is the battery bank going to charge the iPhone? Is the iPhone going to charge the battery bank? Is nothing going to happen at all? And somebody reached out to Anker, who, they make a lot of battery banks, to ask for support on, like, what am I supposed to be doing with this? And Anker basically was like, look, your particular battery bank has a USB-A port on it. Use that one. Because the USB-A port is stupid. Apple's not going to try and talk to the USB-A port, and the battery will just charge the iPhone. It'll work like you expect it to. For the USB-C port, I don't know. We're not sure if this is something Apple can fix with software updates or what, but for the time being, just use the USB-A port if you've got it. So yeah, that's great fun. And this one just came out like today, which I think this is lovely. BMW's internal wireless charging pads in their cars are apparently killing the iPhone 15 Pro NFC chips. It's like if you charge your phone inside of your BMW, then you're not going to be able to use Apple Pay anymore or any of the other NFC enabled features of your phone. And that's just hilarious to me, because not only are you a high roller enough that you bought an iPhone 15 Pro, but you're also driving a BMW, and just that, like, that's just a perfect storm of, yep, you have money, and now one of your expensive things is killing your other expensive thing. And this is just like, I don't know, man. It's a very strange world we live in.
Yes.
So that's all just issues associated with the iPhone 15 upon their launch. Landen also put down here that apparently an AirPods update broke transparency mode. That's freaking wild.
Well,
when did that happen?
So that happened when iOS 17 came out. So I had the beta on my phone, and some people that got the beta and had AirPods Pro 2, like I have, got the firmware updated on the AirPods. Mine never did with the beta, so I never got to test anything out until the official iOS 17 update came out. Then I updated, and in my line of work, I tend to use one earbud at a time, and if I'm listening to something, I have noise cancellation turned on. But if I if I pause whatever I'm listening to, or if I'm talking to somebody, I switch over to transparency mode, because it has been exceptionally good. Like, not just for me, like everyone says, Apple's through like transparency mode is always it's up there, if not the best one out there.
Yeah, pretty much like the best in the business. Yeah,
but this new update has added what did they? Oh, it's adaptive transparency.
Oh, right. Yeah,
and I actually haven't used that yet, but because I had to go in and reconfigure all my settings, because when I would do what I had it normally set up to do, it still thought it was doing the same things, and it was just shutting off my AirPods and completely instead of switching between the noise modes. I'm like, well, that's stupid. So I had to go in, redo everything, got it back to the way it was. But now transparency mode is nowhere near as good as it used to be.
Oh, dang.
And at first I thought, well, maybe it's just me. But then I was listening to another podcast, and somebody else mentioned the exact same thing with their AirPods. I'm like, okay, so it's not just me. There's at least two of us, probably more, that this new update has just broken transparency mode for AirPods,
Okay.
which to me was one of the main selling features of AirPods Pro. Their transparency mode was fantastic. And now it just, I mean, it still works, but like before, it would make it sound like you had just taken your AirPod out of your ear. Like that's how good it was. Now it's like it does clear things up. It's not like it's just an AirPod in your ear or, noise cancellation. Like you can definitely hear a difference, but it still sounds like you have something in your ear, still blocking some of that sound. And it's just not nearly as good as it used to be, in which I'm like, ugh, that's really annoying.
That's great. So it's not just the new iPhones, it's also the new iOS that is breaking crap. So my question for you folks, is this just normal new phone pains, or is this year especially bad? Like I've been thinking back over past releases, just about every year with new iPhones, there's something that goes wrong with the launch. There's a bug that requires like a day one patch to iOS, or there's like some hardware feature that everybody's like, this isn't working like it's supposed to, or something. And then, we've got stuff like Bendgate and AntennaGate and so on and so forth. But I'm struggling to remember a year where we have had the new phones launch, and then within a week, we have a laundry list of sometimes straight up debilitating issues for some people. Like, I'm sorry, if my car's wireless charging breaks my NFC chip, that phone is not getting replaced. That phone is getting returned, and I'm just shopping with another vendor entirely, Like, because I'm sorry, Apple, your $1,000 phone is not equivalent to this $70,000 car, okay? Like, I'm not replacing the car over this. And so this is like some of these things, and the back glass breaking so easily, the thermal issues, Apple has said this is an issue. It's a problem. It's affecting enough people. They're going to be fixing it supposedly with a software update. So like it's a serious problem, but just even still, like, maybe that one's going to get fixed, but also the fingerprints on the titanium rail and the back glass, and the fact that USB battery packs, like, you plug a battery pack into your phone and then your phone charges the battery pack up to 100% and dies. Like, yes, that's what I wanted to have happen, Apple. Thank you. Thank you so much. Like, this is kind of a debilitating number of issues. And I'm like, am I just rose-colored glasses about the past, or is this genuinely the worst year for iPhone launch that we've had?
I think it's a little bit of both, because I mean, there's always issues, and
that's
like,
true.
I think part of the thermal issues, and I can't remember where I heard this. It was some other podcast, but they were mentioning that anytime you get a new phone and you have to basically re-download all your apps and everything, the first week it does get hotter than normal. But not this. Like, this is definitely to a different level. So it's a little bit of both there.
Like, there's something with the thermal issues, like, a touch more detail, listener. With the thermal issues, it's obviously not affecting everybody who has a Pro iPhone.
Right.
And people have been speculating that it's something to do with, like, the way that their new graphics architecture is interacting with specific apps, and, like, how often do you have these specific apps set for background updates and stuff like that? Like, there's a bunch of software things that are playing into what is manifesting as a hardware problem. So it's not affecting everybody, but it is widespread enough that Apple is doing something about it. So
one thing I heard is somebody, I think they took Instagram off of their phone and it went away.
Okay.
Even like it would get hot in other apps as well as Instagram, but they deleted Instagram and then it either stopped or got significantly better.
Significantly better.
Which was interesting. So maybe try that if you're having this issue. I mean, that may not solve it, but that it's not going to hurt anything. I mean, getting less meta in your life is probably not a bad thing anyways.
No, genuinely, just dropping social media is beneficial for your mental health. Yeah. Studies have shown.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think like the thermal issues, I do think over time will get better, but this is still more than what it should be. So an update does need to happen in general. All the other stuff though is, except for maybe the USB-C stuff, all the other stuff is hardware issues, which that's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. The glass and the titanium frame rails, that's, they can't exactly change that. Like,
Yeah.
nope,
No.
phones launched. They've made literally millions of them. That's just how it is now. The USB-C stuff, surely they can like fix their charging logic so that it'll stop like reverse charging the battery pack that you plugged into it to charge it. It's like, I don't care if the battery has less juice in it than the iPhone. Some of these battery packs, like the little chapstick shaped ones, have smaller batteries than the iPhone does.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I want my Pro Max to reverse charge my battery pack. That's just dumb.
Yeah, and it's like this
the battery
isn't,
pack.
it's like this isn't a new thing. Like Samsung phones have been able to reverse charge for a while.
Yes.
And they had it figured out. At least I never heard about these type of issues with Samsung. And it's not like they're, I mean, they sell just as many phones as Apple does, so it's not like we wouldn't have heard about it. So it's like, what is Apple? You just did not think about testing this feature before, or what? I mean, jeez.
What's baffling to me is that, like, you know, Apple implemented this inside of their walled garden in like the most Apple way possible, right? Like, they introduced this as a way to charge your Apple Watch or your AirPods from your phone. Now, also including the ability to charge another iPhone from your iPhone, I sort of understand. But why is it that it can do anything else for any other device? Like, this is Apple we're talking about. These folks invented the concept of a walled garden in the technology space, right? Why is it that the iPhone, like the iPhone basically should send a signal on the USB line when you plug it in. And if the other thing at the other end doesn't go, hey, I'm an Apple device, then they should just automatically turn the thing into a stupid USB port that just accepts power. You know, I could just like you just implement the USB-C spec as advertised, unless you have verification that there's an Apple device on the other end, in which case you can do your fancy reverse charging thing. But otherwise, nobody wants to charge stuff off of their iPhone. Like, if it's not their AirPods and it's not their Apple Watch, I genuinely can't think of a real world scenario in which I'd be like, you know what? Yeah, let me plug into your phone and get a little bit of juice here. No, what? That's such a, I don't know. It's really weird that they can surely fix that with an update to the charging logic and the firmware of the device. So hopefully future versions of iOS 17 are going to include those updates. But what the heck? And the BMW wireless charging thing, like, it's early enough in that whole saga that we're not sure exactly what is happening here. And so far, everybody who's been reporting it is reporting it only happening to the iPhone Pro. But I suspect that might be because the Venn diagram of people who buy a BMW and people who buy the Pro iPhones is basically a circle. Yeah. So nobody with a BMW has tried to charge a regular iPhone 15 off of it. It may affect those as well. We're just not sure. But still, it's just, I don't know. It's not necessarily that, like, we haven't had issues like these after the iPhone launches. I'm just struggling to think of a time where we've had so many of them crop up so fast. So not a super auspicious time to be buying an iPhone. And listener, at this juncture, I would recommend perhaps waiting if you have not already purchased an iPhone 15 or 15 Pro. Just hold off. Let iOS get a little bit better. Maybe Black Friday. Buy one around Black Friday. That's probably going to be the safer bet, which, honestly, I wouldn't recommend you ever buy a new iPhone before Black Friday anyways, because, you know, you could probably get a deal from your cell phone carrier to get one, or two even.
Right.
So, yep, that's what's been happening with Apple this week. It's been really entertaining because I don't have one of these new phones.
Same here.
Yeah, just sitting over here with my 13 mini, like, haha. And my phone's smaller than all of yours too, which is a brag for me.
It's a brag.
That matters to me.
To you. That matters to you.
Okay, well, let's hop over to some Google news here we got this week. Google turns 25.
Yeah.
And Landon, how do they celebrate there?
Oh, Google is celebrating by doing what it does best. And in order to talk about this,
Oh no.
Google turning 25 just means that it had to go and kill something else. And actually, in this case, it killed 2 something else's.
Wow.
Oh, jeez.
One of which I forgot about. The other of which I'm upset about. The first one, Google Podcasts. They announced they will be shutting down Google Podcasts next year sometime. And then the other thing that they killed off this week is called Google Jamboard.
Oh, wait.
Vaguely remembering what Jamboard was?
I'm vaguely remembering what Jamboard was.
It's basically a Surface Hub, except Google.
Yeah.
They even had like a big giant touchscreen table thing that if you wanted to buy, you could do that. It also worked on, it was basically like an online whiteboard that you could, collaborate with different people. And they did make it so you could use it on any device, but they did have a Jamboard device that you could buy. But they're killing that off. But the one I don't like the most though is the Google Podcast thing. Google has really struggled to do anything with, when it comes to anything audio, really, they've just changed their mind 100 different times.
That's so true.
But Google Podcast was the first podcasting thing that they did that I was like, okay, this is actually a really good idea. The only thing they didn't do that was really stupid with it is make it pre-installed on every Android device. If they had done that, it would have, gotten some. I mean, it got a lot of use anyways, but it would have been second behind Apple Podcasts immediately had they done that. But, and I'd be like, listener, you probably aren't like me and don't follow podcasting as nearly as close as I do. But Apple Podcasts definitely is the number one most used podcast aggregator out there. I can't remember what the exact percentage is, but it's like, it's up there. And the second one is Spotify, and it's at like maybe 10%. And Apple or Google Podcasts was third behind that. But if the biggest reason though is because Apple Podcast is pre-installed on every iPhone. So anybody that has an iPhone that even wants to think about listening to a podcast almost always, at least at first, is going to go to Apple Podcasts. They might switch to a different app down the road because they realize that Apple Podcasts just isn't that great of an app, at least from what I understand. But
it is.
Initially, that's where they're going to go. So, and most people are just going to stay there, even though they may not like it. They're like, well, I know it's here. I'm just going to use it. But if Google would have done that, Google Podcasts probably would have been number 2 easily. But they didn't do that. And so now, for some dumb reason, they want to shut it down. And they're going to move their podcasting stuff over to YouTube Music, which I kind of understand.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm the person that has Spotify. If I listen to music, I go to Spotify. Spotify has podcasts. I don't go to Spotify for podcasts because most people that I talk to that have tried that hate it. Not listening to podcasts on Spotify is a problem. It's just that when they're listening to music, all of a sudden they'll just be going through, and then boom, a podcast starts. Like, wait a minute, I was listening to music.
Yes.
And this isn't a podcast I'm subscribed to. It's just feeding them something they might be interested in because, whatever. No. So,
yeah. No, it's like for a while there, you could buy audiobooks on the iTunes store. That was a terrible freaking idea. Okay. Like, I have some audiobooks in my iTunes library as a result of that, and there is nothing worse than like oh, I'm just going to set my entire library to shuffle, and then it just randomly feeds you up a chapter of Sherlock Holmes. Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
This is not
That's
what I was
terrible.
looking for.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that is a thing that should not be combined in
Now,
a single app.
The only thing that will make it usable is if they do what they did when Google Play Music was a thing. Because podcasts were inside of Google Play Music, but they were two very different sections of the same app.
It was like a separate library
Yes.
inside of the same
Mhm.
app.
Like you had to dig into Google Play Music to find podcasts, which is what I initially used when I started listening to podcasts. But then they killed podcast in there, so I switched over to Pocket Cast, which I absolutely love, and it's the app that I recommend to everyone. So if you're for some reason thinking of switching to a different app, go to that one. But it's just it's so stupid.
Oh man, remember Google Play Music?
Yeah.
Those are
That
good
leads me
times.
very nicely to the next thing I wanted to talk about this Google turning 25. So on the Android Police website, they have this article. It says, as Google turns 25, here are 10 of my favorite products it's killed off. And I agree with most of these things. So the first one they have is Google Now, which I kind of forgotten about. So listener, if you don't know what Google Now is, it was what the Google Discovery feed turned into. Or what Google Now turned into Discovery feed. So Google Now used to be like upcoming things that you were going to be doing. Like, so if you had something in your events, like an event in your calendar or something in your Gmail or, sports teams you followed, it would all come up right there. And then it eventually just turned into a news feed, and it just got so much worse and worse over time. And it's just not Google Now anymore. So that's unfortunate. And then my other favorite one is Inbox, and I'm still bitter about that.
Yeah. You really like that one.
Inbox was fantastic. And no, they have not brought all the features from Inbox to Gmail like they said they would. Another one on this list is Google Plus. Also, it was the Google's social media network or platform. That's what it's called. And I actually really liked Google Plus. It was cool. It was it was kind of like Facebook, but definitely different and better in the fact that you had what they called circles. So you could have different groups inside of your friends list that you could post things to certain people or follow certain. It was kind of like having forums inside of a social network, and it actually was kind of cool.
Yeah.
There's an XKCD comic from back when Google's circles, or when Google Plus first launched, that is basically, just one character says to another one, you should come join Google Plus. It's awesome. And they're all like, what is it? It's all like, or no, why should I join it? And they're like, well, it's not Facebook. And they're like, but what's it like? Facebook. And the person's just like, oh, what the heck? That's basically what I was looking for anyways. Just something that is like Facebook, but is not Facebook. Actually, yeah, I'd love that.
Yeah, exactly. It was great.
Yep.
But the problem is that not enough people switched over, and even if enough people had, Google probably would have killed it anyways.
That's very true.
True.
More on this. Another thing on this list was Google Play Music, and Google Play Music was great. I really liked it.
Yeah.
And then they went and killed it, and that's unfortunate. Stadia, that's another one on this list that was really popular. Well, everyone that used it loved it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't think they had it. They let it stay around long enough for it to get popular. I think it would have down the road. But
Probably.
when it comes to gaming platforms, you need to let these things bake for a little while, Google.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Could you
like,
imagine if they would have stayed a couple months and all of a sudden they would have been signed to Activision stuff from
Yes.
Microsoft?
like, I mean, they were kind of the cutting edge of that. Like, they were the first ones into the space for this style of cloud gaming.
Yeah.
And what really needed to happen was for the market to catch up.
Yeah.
Once the Steam Deck had released, once the Lenovo Legion Go and the ROG Ally and all of these handheld PCs, like they were a niche market before the Steam Deck, but now giant companies are getting into the game. They're going to flood the market. And yeah, they're powerful enough to run games on the hardware, but not all games. And you would get a better experience on a lot of games by streaming them from a remote server somewhere. And something like Stadia on a device like that makes so much sense.
Mm-hmm.
All the sense in the world. But Stadia was dead by the time these things really took off. It's like, Google, just hang on for like an extra 6 months. It's not like you don't have enough money.
Yeah, seriously. And that's literally like 6 months to a year is all they needed more. Yep. And it wouldn't necessarily have blown up, but it would have been like a lot of people would have started to use it all of a sudden just because.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, developers were making games for it, and then they were like, wait a minute, where's it going? You didn't tell us this. And,
especially since Google put so much emphasis on making the thing run through the browser.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, Stadia's like, or the Steam Deck is a Linux-powered operating system, but it runs a freaking Chromium browser. Nope. Like, that's all it needs to do to work great with Stadia. So, I don't know. It was definitely a case where, like, they saw writing on the wall that wasn't there and killed the thing months before it would have been like, oh, this is the most logical gaming subscription you can get for your new portable handheld computer that, like, millions of people have bought over the past 6 months. And they just, I don't know. It's really sad when you think about it. You're just like, Google, just go, like, the Stadia team just needs to go take out a loan from the search people.
That's what it is.
And then pay it back in a year, kind of thing. Like, guys, just move the money around inside of the company a little bit so you can fund a few of these things a little bit longer.
Yeah. And even like another thing I think they could have done, if they didn't want to have their own platform like it was, they could have licensed out the technology and it would have paid for itself really fast. Like, you license out the technology to Valve, then they could put it on the Steam Deck so it'll work, or to Xbox or to PlayStation. They could use this technology that would make the PlayStation portable, whatever they call it. I don't remember what they call it. That could make that thing actually useful. Whatever. But that was just one. Yeah. It's like, why did you, that was really fast too. It's like, really? Come on.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, the next thing on this list is Google Play Edition phones. Do you remember those?
No.
This was back in the Nexus days. So Google had their Nexus phones that were basically, Google partnered with a company to make a phone. They called it a Nexus phone. They partnered with Samsung a couple times, HTC, Motorola a couple times. Yeah. Then they started making their own. But they also would kind of partner with these phone companies and made versions. Like, so some of the phones that they had was the Galaxy S4, the HTC One M7 and M8, the original Moto G phone, a couple Sonys, an LG tablet, different things. They had Google Play editions that basically were these, like the hardware of these phones running Nexus software. So it wasn't a Nexus phone because Google didn't really have any say in the hardware, but it had regular stock Android software on it, which was fantastic because I love Samsung hardware. I can't stand their operating or their user interface. If they had one of those with Pixel software on it, that would be really tempting.
Yeah.
But they don't do that. They only did that for 2 years. That was unfortunate. Google Glass, which...
Yep.
I mean, I'm going to talk about that a little later in the podcast, but that was another one that they killed off a little. I can't say they killed it off too soon. I think they brought it out too soon. They have been selling them to enterprise for the last few years. You can't buy them as a regular consumer, unfortunately. But that's another one on this list that was really cool. Also, Google Daydream. You remember that? So Google had the Google Cardboard VR headsets that you could put your phone into, and it was literally just a cardboard box that had a little button in there that would touch a certain part of the screen to do certain things on it. The Daydream headset was very similar. Like, you put your phone in, you close it up, but it was like an actual, like, nice constructed headset with a remote control and stuff. I actually have one somewhere. I can't remember where it's at, but I have one, and it was great. I loved that thing. It had some cool games on there. It was kind of like it was a cheap version of basically a Quest, like a Oculus Quest headset. Just, you had to have a phone to use it. That was the display, basically, was your phone. But it was really cool. They killed that off in only 3 years, and they've kind of gotten away from anything VR anymore, which is like, they were one of the first companies out there to do anything with VR, and then they just stopped.
Well, I remember Google Cardboard was like, oh, this is like actually a really cool like research project that Google did, and then just released it into the wild so that you could just, like, with a really cheap piece of hardware, quote unquote hard cardboard, where you could have a thing you could stick your phone in and you could watch 3D videos and stuff. Like, it was actually really neat. I was like, oh, this is cool.
I remember back in the day when cardboard was relatively new, Google partnered up with Major League Soccer and broadcast the MLS Cup final. I think it was in Seattle that year. And they had different cameras set up throughout the stadium, like 360 cameras. And I remember watching it with my Google Cardboard just for a few minutes. I didn't watch the whole game that way, but I could go around to different parts of the stadium. Like, I could be in, like, the main supporter section, right front row, up above, like, the stadium. And there was a few different spots. It was really cool. And you could look around, and it was in VR, like 360 video, and it was really rad.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And it was my favorite part, though, of Google Cardboard was the announcement, because it was at a Google I/O. It was a very, like, everyone was leaving the room, and the CEO, I can't remember which, it was one of the CEOs of one of the founders of Google was still, doing stuff for him. And he was like, oh, and by the way, we're giving everyone one of these cardboard headsets. They're in the back. Go get them. And that's how they announced it. And everyone's like, what is this thing? And then they started using it, like, ooh, that's kind of fun.
Yeah. Well, and I think, is it still a part of Google Maps that you can do, like, walking tours of some areas?
I know they still have walking tours, but I don't know if I'll have to do some research into that. They might still work.
Because I did one, like, when they first announced that, I did one of Petra in Jordan.
Yeah.
Which, that was dope. Like,
I did that one.
Doing my like, Indiana Jones The Last Crusade, like, fan tour of Petra, walking around and looking at the ruins and stuff like that. And that was really, I mean, it's not like crazy immersive, because it was not like a super high quality experience, because it's a really basic headset with not super fancy lenses, and the screen is literally just my phone screen split in half. But it was good enough that I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. So I don't know. That was fun.
Yeah. So I just wanted to go through that list as for Google's 25th birthday. All the best things that it's killed. I don't want to go through everything that's killed, because that would take way too long.
That's a whole other podcast.
But those are some of my favorite things that Google killed. I agree with that article. Some of the 10 best things that Google killed. That list makes me sad. and very nostalgic, I should say.
Yeah, understandable.
All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and move on and move from Google over to Microsoft. Hey, guess what? The FTC is alive again, trying to go after Microsoft's acquisition of ABK. One last ditch effort.
Well, they have to, because we can't just make this easy.
We can't. Okay, so what this is they're wanting to do another court case, but I guess now what I understand is in their jurisdiction or something.
Okay, this is the same court case that the FTC tried to bring against them to begin with, that they dropped after I guess after a judge indicated that they would not grant the FTC a stay against Microsoft's acquisition based on what they had presented.
Mhm.
And because of all of that nonsense, the they dropped it, and they're all like, oh, okay, in that case we're just going to do private negotiations with Microsoft, and everything seemed to be going fine, and Microsoft went ahead and moved on with the acquisition. They have now signed more contracts with Activision Blizzard, and the acquisition is underway, and now the FTC is all like, no, never mind, actually we do want to go to court with this court case. And so it's if they do go to court at this point and the judge finds that the acquisition isn't legal, that's too bad, because it will have already happened by that point in time.
Yeah, by the time
it'll be too late to block it, so you're going to have to force them to break up, which is going to require the FTC to actually do antitrust stuff, which literally that is what they're supposed to do, but that's not what they do. Come on.
No, that's not real. Okay,
not
now that
real
you mentioned that, I have to mention that the FTC is after Google for a monopolistic issue when it comes to search on the iPhone. But it's they paid for that. They didn't.
Yeah, they paid for it.
And Apple does let you change that if you want, and they tell you that when you set up a new iPhone, you can change the search by the defaults. So they don't actually do antitrust things; they just make it look like they do.
Yeah, so I think my favorite part about that is that the investigation into Google's supposedly antitrust monopolistic market controlling behavior by using their position of dominance to spend a whole bunch of money to get people like Apple to make them the default for their browsers and so on and so forth.
Right.
They interviewed Phil Schiller about that, and they're all like, why is Google why does Apple make Google the default search engine? And Phil's like, well, we looked at all the other search engines and they were kind of the only option, and they sort of still are. He's all like, they're the best. We're focused around giving our users the best experience they can get on the device when they open it up. And if they would then like to change to a different search engine, they can. That option is there for them. But the default is just the best search engine on the market. And yes, they are paying us a bunch of money as well. He's all like, basically what he said was, even if they weren't paying us, we would probably still put Google as the default because they don't really have any competition in the space, and that's not our fault. You can't blame us for that.
Yeah. iPhone for a while they did use Bing as the default search engine, but it didn't work it made Siri even worse than it was before.
It was awful. Yeah, they used it. Bing was the default search engine for Siri, not for Safari. Safari was Google, but they used Bing for Siri for a little while, and it was terrible. And so they switched to Google, and it got marginally less terrible.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, Bing has gotten better, but it's still not Google.
No.
True.
Anyways, that's just reasons why the FTC is dumb.
Yeah, no, the FTC is at this point, it's a joke. This is a joke. It's got to be. This is somebody's idea of something funny. The FTC is pranking us.
Somebody at the FTC that actually has a pull is a big PlayStation fanboy. So hey, let's try this out. Let's see what this does.
That's it.
Oh, dude. So
I
figure we mentioned that because we're trying. I thought this would be quiet about news until CMA goes through, but man, nope.
Yeah, it still is. What the FTC is just angry at life or something like that. I don't know.
I would have assumed they would have dropped this.
I don't know
what
they just
went
doing.
After Amazon. They just made a case against Amazon. I would assume they'd have been like, let's not go after every big tech company, even though we've already lost against this one.
Well, here's the thing. If they're going to go after a big tech company, go after them for things that they should actually be going after them for.
Yeah, there are legitimate reasons to go after all of them, but they don't go after any of them for those reasons.
Exactly. You want to talk about monopolistic behavior, investigate Amazon. Oh my gosh, Amazon has engaged in so much monopolistic behavior. Google also invests in monopolistic practices. Their search engine just isn't one of them. Like, their search engine isn't the problem. Maybe look at Android. Maybe look at the way that they're handling app installation on Android. That probably is more fruitful there. You want to go after Apple? You absolutely can go after Apple. Don't go after the way they install software on their devices, though. Go after the way they lock down their devices for the end user to make it impossible to repair or replace anything. You know? Like, there are plenty of things wrong with all of these companies, and the FTC could be doing something useful with all of them. But Xbox buying Activision Blizzard is a net positive for everybody, including the end customers. You want to go after Microsoft, you absolutely can, but Xbox? That's not the route. That's not the it's not the angle of attack you want to take here. Like, Microsoft has so many other options. Like, okay, let's talk about the way Microsoft Office exists and the way that they monetize that, the way that they control that ecosystem and stuff like that. That's concerning to me. Like, they have said something about Teams, and
Teams though.
I guess they haven't said something about Teams. Zoom has complained about Teams, but was that even to the FTC, or was that the EU? I can't remember.
The EU.
They probably complained about it to both, but they know the EU might actually do something about it.
Yeah, the EU might do something.
The EU will actually do something about it. So the EU is talking about something. It's like, you know what? Actually, Microsoft could use their position in the business space to drive companies like Zoom out of the picture with a competing product, simply by making it like required that you use this if you're going to use our other products, which you have to use because everybody uses our products. Like, that's monopolistic behavior that's very concerning and is the sort of thing that Microsoft has historically done. Buying Activision Blizzard has got absolutely nothing to do with any of that nonsense.
Bingo.
Anyways, that's
that was
exactly
a lot longer
what
section. That's a lot longer point. I thought we were going to we even got Landen in on this one. That was pretty good. See, this is how bad this has gotten, FTC.
So bad.
If you got someone that's a non-gamer.
Hey, this has more to do with the functionality of the U.S. government, and don't get me started on that.
Yeah,
that's very true.
You know, we should move on before we get into that. Let's go ahead and something that doesn't irritate us. Facebook and I'm sorry, Meta.
No, that does irritate me.
That was a joke. That was huge. That was a huge joke. Actually,
I was gonna say you need to rephrase that a little bit, because if we're going straight from the FTC to Meta, I'm not sure which is worse.
Which is worse? Well, let's get into it here on our general text section here.
Speaking of things the FTC should look into.
Yeah. Yes. Right there. Here we go. Meta. Why don't you go ahead and take us on this journey here on the Meta Quest 3.
All right. So Meta had an event this past week. They announced a few things, including the Meta Quest 3, some new they're not AR, just some glasses that have dumb capabilities, and then some AI stuff that they want to mention. But the most important thing is the Meta Quest 3. And listener, if you want to know about this, it's a Meta Quest Pro for $500.
Yeah, pretty much.
But and better, actually. I say better in the sense that it's lighter weight, it's more comfortable from everyone I've heard about wearing it and using it. It has controllers, which is also a plus.
Yeah.
Now, the display inside, the screens inside the headset aren't quite as high quality as the Pro.
Yeah.
But that's about it. And it does have pass-through cameras, and they are much, much better than what's on the Meta Quest 2 and the Oculus Quest, the originals.
Oh, yeah.
Because the originals were basically there to set up your area. So, and then if you walked out of your little boundary that you made, it would say, oh, by the way, you're out of the boundary. You should probably go back into there. These ones are actually useful to do things, kind of like the Apple Vision Pro. Not nearly as good as that, but to be able to use it in that same way, basically.
I was going to say, like, the cameras on the original Quest headsets
No,
were literally made of, like, they were potatoes. Like, I've got it over there. I'll go grab it. It's a potato. They just literally glued potatoes onto the outside of the headset. They were terrible. So
and I
bad.
believe it was like maybe one or maybe two cameras that used.
There
for
were
pass-through.
two, but they were using for pass-through the same cameras they were using for tracking. Which, listener, if you're aware of how computer vision tracking works, you don't want a good camera for that. You want a high contrast camera.
Yes.
So black and white.
Yep.
Right? With like very little grays between the two. That's what you want. A black and white camera that's really good for tracking in an environment, but it's really terrible for seeing things. Otherwise your eyes would be black and white. Like, it's bad.
Yeah.
They were not good.
And, so like I said, the MetaQuest 3 is basically a MetaQuest Pro, but $500. So it is more expensive than the Quest 2 was. That was started at $400. So that's kind of a bummer, but this is a lot better of a headset. This is a much bigger, much more significant update than I think anybody was really expecting. Especially where the Quest Pro, what was that, $1,000 or something like that?
Yeah, it was about 1,000.
So, like, you're getting most of those features in a more affordable headset, and it's going to be way more usable because it's set up the same way as the regular Quest. So it's more familiar for most people, and it has controllers, like I said. So that's definitely beneficial. I think it's interesting. So, like, Apple, what they're doing with the Vision Pro is really impressive, but it's really expensive. And the problem, I think, that they're going to find out, at least when it comes to the way that they're marketing it for people to use it, is completely wrong. Because what Meta, unfortunately, I think what they're doing here is the best thing you can do right now when it comes to VR, AR headsets. Because most people, when they use these type of things, are doing it for games or working out. Whereas, like the Vision Pro, they are not marketing it for either of those things at all. Maybe a little bit in the game stuff, but mostly for entertainment, like videos or TV, and then work, which most people don't use these type of things for working.
Here's the problem with the Vision Pro. They're marketing it for life. Like, they're marketing this as a thing that you stick on your face and then you leave it there and you just live your life that way. And it's supposed to enhance the way you interact with the world. And I think that, aside from the fact that all I see when I see that is every, like, Ray Bradbury Black Mirror episode of, like, very cautionary science fiction I have ever seen in my life. Aside from all of that, just people, I don't think consumers are stupid enough to think that this is going to work properly the first time. Like, Apple is marketing this as, like, this is the new revolution in the way you interact with the world, but that's not gonna fly. Like, that is a terrible way to market. The only people that will be successful in marketing to are the crazy tech first adopters and Apple fanboys that will take anything new and absolutely run out the door with it. Just they were the people who, the very first smart home devices started landing, they bought all of them and tried to automate their house and discovered that nothing worked together. It was the Wild West and everything was broken. And they were the ones that had all of their devices wrapped together by bad actors into botnets that were used to DDoS websites and stuff like that. Like, those people, those are the ones that this marketing that Apple is doing is going to successfully target. And I think Apple actually probably does know that. And I think that's why they're only making about, like, maybe 13,000 of these headsets for the first generation, because that's how many of those people there are. So, I don't know. like, you're right that Apple's marketing is not going to target the vast majority of consumers, but I do think that Apple realizes that they're not making nearly enough of these to sell them to the vast majority of consumers anyways.
Right. And even when Apple comes out with the Apple Vision that's not a Pro version, it's still going to cost $1,000 or more.
Yeah, at least.
And it won't compete with the Quest 3 when it comes to people buying it, because, I mean, there will be more people that buy that just because it's Apple, but it's still not going to be worth buying, in my opinion.
And it's still very sad to me, because it would be lovely for like Meta to actually have some competition in this space, because, you know, entry-level VR gaming is actually pretty cool. I genuinely really enjoy it. I would just love for it to not be Facebook, you know? Just, if at all possible, please. I don't like Zuck. I don't like his company. I don't like any of his life goals. Just no thanks.
Yeah, and what's crazy is I think they saw what Apple was doing with the Vision Pro and be like, okay, we need to lean a little harder into what we know and what we're doing, what people are telling us they do with their headsets. And they actually did that with the Quest 3, because most people that buy the Quest devices have bought them for gaming on the one side, but mostly working out. Like, it's a fitness device. And when, like, marketing or some of the stuff that comes with this Quest 3 is replaceable, cleanable face guards on this thing. You can take them out and wash them, because that's actually important. Even if you're not working out with this thing, you start to sweat and it gets pretty gross. Like, with mine, the foam pad that it came with actually had a recall on it for, I can't remember what the reasons were, but instead of just replacing it, they sent me like a silicone pad that can go over it, which I actually prefer, because I can wipe that down really easy, and I like that a lot, because I sweat, you know, a decent amount. I'm a sweaty person, I'll admit it. So especially when I'm playing Beat Saber or something like that, I get moving and I get sweating, and having the ability to just wipe that down really quick and easy is really nice. So they see that, and so they made it, again, really quick and easy to just clean that part of the headset. It's really nice. The downside to this Quest 3 is it comes with basically the same head strap that the Quest 2 did, which was garbage. So you're probably going to want to upgrade to something else, because, like, I upgraded to I can't remember what they call it. It's sold by Meta. It's like the Pro head. I can't remember what, but it actually has like a ratcheting head strap on it, and it's really nice. But yeah, so new Meta Quest 3. If you want to learn more about it, you can. I didn't get all the major details on it, other than it's basically a Quest Pro, because that's what it is. Now, the glasses, they partnered with Ray-Ban on these glasses. So the glasses themselves are going to be decent quality, because Ray-Ban is pretty nice. But they have cameras on them, and you supposedly can live stream to Instagram. But the problem with that is, like, people can't see you, and you can't see things because it doesn't have a screen, doesn't have a display on it. So if you want to interact with comments or anything, you're going to need another device, which you could be live streaming from that anyways.
Well, and I think that's, like, they don't just, it's not going to live stream to Instagram. It's going to connect to your phone and then live stream to Instagram through your phone. It's basically just an external camera for your phone that sits on your face, so that your followers can't see you. They can just see what you're doing, which, like, I don't know a ton about Instagram live streaming, because, like, I don't ever participate, like, as a viewer or a content creator in that space, like, at all. But I can't imagine that the way that I understand influencers on Instagram to work, I can't imagine that any of their followers would watch a video that didn't have their face in it.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
now, the one place I could see this
works.
The one place I could see this being maybe useful is if you are a DIY type Instagram page and you're showing how to do something, maybe. But even then, it's like just mount your phone on a overhead tripod or something. I don't know. Set it up.
Or like just get a phone holder and like, rubber band it to your forehead. I feel like that would save a lot of time and effort.
Or even better, start a YouTube channel. Maybe.
Hey,
then you could actually make some money,
Actually, yeah. So what you do is you go, instead of on Instagram, you go to TikTok. And then you get a huge following on TikTok, and then you switch over to YouTube Shorts and try and build a following there. And then you can get paid for what you're doing, because YouTube actually, they don't pay well, but they do pay, which is better than Instagram and TikTok.
Yeah,
pretty much any other source.
Yeah, and the last thing and the dumbest thing that Meta, surprisingly behind the glasses, did was before we go on from that, I wanted to mention, I mentioned before Google Glass, and I was going to talk about it later. This is the time, because Google Glass was, it was talked about when it was announced how it's kind of ahead of its time, and it was. If they would have waited and announced it now, it actually makes sense. People would probably buy it and be perfectly accepting of what it is. At the time, not so much. But you compare what Google Glass can do to what the Snapchat glasses or these Meta glasses or the Amazon, what these other companies are doing. What these other companies are doing is nothing compared to what Google Glass could do 8-10 years ago when it came out,
Yep.
Like,
that is true.
Which is, it's really unfortunate that Google killed those off. One, I understand it to an extent because they got a lot of interesting feedback for those, which at the time was fair. But again, if they were to announce something like that now, nobody would bat an eye. No, they would sell like crazy.
Yeah.
Like, it's unfortunate.
Well, and I think it's weird to me to think that the world we have ended up in, I would much rather strap a Google-powered set of smart glasses to my face than any of these other options from Amazon, Snapchat, Meta, any of them.
Yeah.
I trust Google more than I trust all those other companies. And whoa, that's a weird place to be.
That is quite
like
weird.
It was not that many years ago that I was sitting here like, oh, how can I get rid of all of my Google services and stuff like that? And how do I stop Google from collecting all of my data? And then, the past decade happened, and it turns out Google is a much better steward of my data than pretty much anybody else. Possible exception of Apple, because Apple is perfectly willing to just forget everything they know about me, even if it's inconvenient for me. Which, that happens, and is kind of obnoxious. But at least I know that nobody else knows anything from them.
Yeah.
They can't. Apple doesn't even know.
Yeah. But moving on, the last thing that Meta talked about was adding AI to things that they use. So basically what they're doing is they're adding AI bots to WhatsApp, Messenger, and Instagram. So, and it's not just, regular chat bots. It's like a generative AI powered by, as it says here, Llama 2 and Bing. So, which it's funny because it's like they're trying to compete with ChatGPT and Bing and whatnot, but this is powered by Bing. So that's fun.
Microsoft is going to sell this technology to anybody who will take it.
Yeah.
Every chance they get.
Yeah.
So it turns out that Facebook is kind of behind on this whole thing. Hey, we'll sell you some of that.
Yeah. It's just interesting. So like they have, like I said, new AI chatbot. You can do some image editing inside type things and some AI stickers inside of Messenger and what I don't understand it. It's just Meta being Meta and dumb, and Zuck needs to just go
copying literally everything that everybody does as soon as they do it.
It's
That's
like
the
he's
meta
been
way.
doing that since the beginning. Weird.
It's true. It's true. Like, he had like one idea, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know
And
how
then
the
he
past like 15 years happened since
Then
then.
he either just copies other places or buys other places.
Yes.
But yeah,
Yeah.
that was the meta event. It was interesting. The best thing definitely was the Quest 3, which I'm genuinely interested in. I'm not going to buy one because I don't use my Quest 2 enough to justify buying something the next generation at more money. But it is really cool, and I'm interested to see where they continue to go with this market. And I've been interested in the AR VR space anyways, but I like what this is shocking that I'm saying this, but I like what Meta is doing here. It's weird.
Yeah,
Wow,
I
that
just
is weird
wish
to say.
that there were literally any other option in the
It's
market.
true. HTC needs to,
Do
work
something.
on the Vive or anything
Or
with it.
Valve,
Valve.
reinvent the whatever that thing was called, the Index. We need a new version of the Index.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, the original Index was pretty dang high quality. What we need is a portable version of the Index.
We need more companies to come out with a standalone headset like this. All the other ones, you have to connect them to a computer.
Yeah.
Which I understand for what they were selling them for. They were gaming headsets.
Sure.
But everyone needs more people need to come out with these standalone headsets that you can just use.
I mean, frickin' Valve, you make the single most popular handheld gaming console on the planet currently. Like, I think that for a couple of months there, they even passed Nintendo, which, what?
Wow.
Okay. So, take that thing and slap it in a VR headset, please.
Just partner with Google, bring back Daydream View, slap a Valve or the Steam Deck into there.
Yeah, just put the Steam Deck in it, use that OS. Basically, it just needs to be strong enough to run Beat Saber. That's all we're asking.
Basically.
It's all like 90% of it, and then sell it for $200 and you win.
Well, we're already talking about some gaming stuff. Should we get into it? Some of our gaming topics here.
No, sure.
Well, first things first, let's talk about PlayStation and that the boss Jim Ryan, he's going to retire, in quotes, 2024. So, I think the big talk here was, is he going to retire or is he getting forced out?
Yeah, given the way that everything went over the past year with the whole Microsoft and Xbox purchasing Blizzard and whatnot, I wouldn't be terribly surprised if it's maybe a little bit more of the second.
Kind of like, hey, Jim, you're going to need to retire, buddy.
It's all like, buddy, we have paid you a lot of money over the years. Maybe go spend some of that and call it good.
Yep. So there's that. Next topic. Xbox has pushed out a second September update, which allows you to upload to OneDrive. First, it was in the alpha ring pretty quickly, and then they just pushed it out to everybody. Actually, this is cool. It's really cool.
So, first off, now that it's on Xbox, it'll be coming to Windows 11 next year sometime?
It might. Maybe after Windows 12 is released, they might put it in Windows 11.
The ability to upload to OneDrive from Windows 11 coming in March of 2024.
It's coming. No, this is actually a pretty cool feature because before you really couldn't access your upload, your videos or your clips or anything. Like, you had to do some really back end stuff to actually get it away from the Xbox, and stuff like that. This is just not upload to OneDrive and then share it or pull it to wherever, and there you go. It's pretty easy to do. You just go into how you want to upload your stuff, and you can do it to the Xbox Network as well as OneDrive. The thing they did add to it, though, is on the Xbox Network, anything that you've uploaded or saved to the Xbox Network, it will be deleted in 90 days. So
that's fair. That's actually kind of nice. Like, I back in the day pulled some footage off of a PlayStation 4, and that was kind of a pain in the butt. As I recall, I had to download PlayStation app and then connect it to my account and then connect it to my PlayStation. And then I could directly send the footage from the PlayStation to my phone over local Wi-Fi. And then I could do stuff with it. And I was just like, this is really freaking weird. It's connected to the internet. Mm-hmm. Why can't I just like email it to myself? Or like, okay, it's a big file, but why can't I just like put this thing in like cloud storage somewhere? Like, does Sony not know what the cloud is? Does cloud not exist for PlayStation? I don't know.
No, I mean, because we've already seen that with what that little gaming handheld thing that came out with.
Right. Oh my gosh.
That's their version of the cloud.
Sony,
local area network.
Got a bridge to sell you.
Seriously. But you can do that. It's actually pretty seamless. You can set it up. It's pretty quick, and you can upload all your clips and stuff. I looked to see how many old clips I had. I was looking through some of my clips that I would save like on Overwatch, and I have OG where I would come in with a save on Mercy and mass res my entire team, and I get play of the game.
Oh yeah, that was
stuff like that. That's how old some of these are.
Like I hated. There have been a lot of changes, like big changes to Overwatch characters over the years that kind of upset me and frustrated me. Like, yeah, I was one of the original Symmetra players. I really enjoyed the fact that her gun auto-tracked. Okay, yes, I was that guy. But at the same time, I was really happy when they reworked Mercy and got rid of the mass res ability, because that was super obnoxious. There was nothing worse than killing the whole enemy team except for one idiot. And then suddenly, they're all back now. Cool.
I was that idiot.
Yeah.
That one right there.
It's like that's why I played Lucio, so that I could do environmental kills, because if there's no corpse, they can't be resurrected.
There you go. Oh no, it's fun. So you can do this now, set it up and mess with the files there. It creates it's pretty smart. It actually creates it doesn't just send a whole file that just says Xbox stuff. It actually puts, if you have a pictures file, it actually says Xbox pictures. It'll put it in your videos for Xbox videos for all your clips and all your funny stuff, which is really funny because I've got a lot of funny things that have happened to me over the years for gaming, especially in Red Dead Redemption, on how horse mechanics just go haywire after a minute. Hey, I'm going to try and jump over this. No, I'm going to go flinging off my horse in and crumble down this hill into a lake and drown. And I'm like, I'm going to save that.
Perfect.
Yep. So there's plenty of things like that you can now upload to and share, and just easier way to do. So this is a win. This is a good win right here.
Yeah.
All right, let's move to the next topic here. Blizzard. Because we don't get enough of talking about that. They are getting one of the old guards back. Good old Chris Metzen. He is going to be the director of Warcraft and everything for Warcraft moving forward, which is pretty much his old job. He did a lot of Warcraft stuff back in the day. So first it was just kind of a part-time, coming back just little bits, but they broke the news and said he's going to be a full-time. He's back. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I mean,
it's only meaningful if Activision goes away. But with the Microsoft purchase, I'm hopeful that that's happening soon. So
yeah, I agree with that 100%. I would agree with that. So I think it's good news. I always like Chris Metzen and the things he's done and on there, so I enjoyed it. All right, let's move on. Counter-Strike 2.
Oh yeah,
release.
So this is amazing to me. So Counter-Strike. This is a game that has been around for a very long time, listener, right? Like this goes back to, I don't know, when was the first Counter-Strike released? 2005?
Well, wasn't Counter-Strike a mod from Half-Life?
Well, yeah, so there was the Counter-Strike mod is that the original Half-Life, or was it?
I think it was original.
Was it the original?
It was the original Half-Life.
And then they did a source port for it, right? Ported it to the source engine. And then Counter-Strike Global Offensive, or CSGO, as you have probably more likely heard it called, came out in 2011 or something like that. It's been over 10 years since that game launched. And I think you could make the argument that CSGO was the second Counter-Strike game. You had Counter-Strike, you had a source port of Counter-Strike. I think there were some things that you could call expansions to Counter-Strike, but CSGO was a significant enough update and changed the way the game functioned enough that I think most people consider CSGO to be the second Counter-Strike game. However, Valve disagrees, and they just released Counter-Strike 2, basically suggesting that CSGO was an expansion to the original Counter-Strike. But I think what actually happened here is that the devs at Valve, who are gamers to a one in their core, their heart of hearts, they are real actual pants gamers, think it's just as funny as the rest of us do that Valve has never released a game with a 3 in the title. And so they've released Counter-Strike 2 instead of Counter-Strike 3.
Oh.
That's what happened here, to make it clear that they are playing along and that Valve cannot count to 3. Okay? So that's what Counter-Strike 2 is. It's Counter-Strike, right? It's the same game. It's the same, like team-based terrorist versus counter-terrorist. Fighting in maps with a lot of the same maps. It's all been updated into a new version of the source engine. The physics are better. The textures are better. Everything looks nicer. It's all crispy and fancy and stuff like that. There are some things that some of the Counter-Strike pros are complaining about, like they changed the way volumetric fog works on the smoke grenades and stuff like that. It's basically just they've changed some of the mechanics that the hardcore CS players used to rely on, and now they're going to have to change their reflexes, right? Like they're going to have to relearn some new reflexes in order to get as good as they were on CSGO on Counter-Strike 2. So we're going to whine about that. That was going to happen regardless of whatever Valve did. Crucially, loot boxes, they're still there. So, okay.
Of course.
Now, what's interesting about this launch is that Valve did a Blizzard, which is, in this day and age, usually a bad thing. Instead of releasing Counter-Strike 2 as a new game, they released it in place of CSGO. Right? So it's just new game that replaced CSGO, basically like an update, the way that Valve did with Overwatch 2. Blizzard did with Overwatch 2. It just ceased to exist, and Overwatch 2 happened. That's what Counter-Strike 2 did to CSGO. What's notable about this is that broke support for a lot of machines that CSGO was installed on, because CSGO is an old game. It ran on old hardware, and there was a Mac port of the game that ran on integrated graphics because, again, it's an old game. And so CS2 does not support Macs. So the people who had CSGO installed on their Macs just basically booted up Steam one day, and it's like, sorry, this game doesn't work anymore. Oh,
that sucks.
That's neat. And also anybody that was running the game on older hardware, which you could do, maybe not competitively, but if you just want to have some fun with your friends, absolutely fine. The game runs at 60 FPS. It's great, whatever. But now it doesn't anymore because Counter-Strike 2 is significantly more resource intensive than CSGO was. So my question, is this okay? Is this cool? This is a trend now. It's happened twice. This is not just an isolated that's just Blizzard doing Activision things anymore. This is Valve, makers of the Steam Deck, makers of Half-Life Alyx, makers of Portal. These guys, right? The company that everybody in the PC gaming space loves, because generally speaking, they do awesome things for gamers. And then they do this. And I get from the one perspective, it's oh yeah, it's our game. We're going to do what we want with it. And we don't want to support CSGO. But killed it. Like, this is a game that people had put a lot of time and effort and sometimes a lot of money into. And now they can't play the game anymore overnight. It's just gone.
That's rough. That's actually pretty rough.
It's like software gaslighting.
This is the aspect of the digital market that I absolutely hate.
Yes.
Is that you could just, and it goes with any genre, like anything, like videos, like movies, TV shows, games. If you don't have the physical thing, this can, even if you do in some cases with gaming, if you don't have the physical thing, or if it's mostly a digital download, it can just be gone, which is really dumb. And I hate that.
Yep. Yeah. No, I agree. This is kind of the thing that people worry about when we talk about digital storefronts and that sort of thing. And I feel like probably the thing to do in this situation is to release Counter-Strike 2 as a separate game, market the crap out of it all over Steam, because you own Steam, Valve. I'm not sure if you knew that. That's your thing. Did you know?
That's you.
So, put it all over the front page. You'll have literally millions of people jumping off of CSGO to go try out Counter-Strike 2 instantly. And then you basically at the same time just announce we're no longer going to be supporting CSGO. Like, we will not be releasing updates to it. The bugs that are there are going to stay there. Stability issues that crop up as stuff goes on, they're going to keep cropping up, and we're killing all of the official servers. So if you want to run the game on a server, you're going to have to, which is the only way to run the game, right? It's a multiplayer game. You have to have servers. You're going to have to use community servers and stuff like that. And just making those changes pretty much guarantees that 90% of the player base is going to switch to CS2. Okay? But people who can't switch to CS2, they can continue to try and muddle along with CSGO and on the older servers, on the community servers, or set up their own servers if they really want to go that far and that kind of thing. And they can still play the game that they were playing. Like, even if for no other reason than nostalgia, I feel like you ought to keep that an option. You don't have to support it. You don't even have to run servers for it. You can just leave that to the community to take care of all that stuff and just move on. And the community has demonstrated, Valve, that they are willing to take care of your games for you. The most recent update to, was it Portal 2, I think? No. Left 4 Dead. The most recent update for Left 4 Dead 2 was a whole bunch of community-made maps. Valve did nothing. The community did a bunch of stuff. Valve wrapped them together into an expansion and released it as an official piece for the game. That happened a couple of years ago, and because they're not supporting Left 4 Dead 2, really. Like, yeah, the servers are still up, but that's it. They're not really doing anything else with Left 4 Dead 2. But, like, the community took care of that for them, and the community absolutely would have done that for CSGO to take care of those few people, like, that can't move on to Counter-Strike 2. But you'd still be making, like, literally buckets and buckets of money off of Counter-Strike 2. Like, I feel like that's what should have happened here. I don't think that this was the right way to do this, Valve.
Yeah. Gosh. Yeah, that wasn't good, because there's, gonna be honest, I wasn't too happy about Overwatch 2.
No.
And, yeah.
I'm still real unhappy about that, because friggin', like, I have done the 5v5 gameplay, and I am convinced it's worse. I don't like it.
Yeah.
And that's a personal preference thing. I am the guy who prefers original StarCraft to StarCraft 2 because StarCraft 2 is too fast. I like StarCraft 1 better because it's a little bit more methodical. And Overwatch 1 was more methodical than Overwatch 2.
Yeah.
But you can't play that anymore. So, cool.
All right. Enough of that. Let's go ahead and talk about Epic. Another favorite thing of Spen loves.
Oh, yeah. No, this is great. This is great. So Epic announced that they're going to be laying off like 800 people. They actually said a percentage of their workforce was going to be laid off, which works out to about 800 people. This is in the midst of them pushing their whole Apple lawsuit up to the Supreme Court, or attempting to. They have submitted a request to the Supreme Court for them to hear their case, which is interesting because the tens of millions of dollars that they have surely spent on lawyers for that case to this point probably could have gone to keep a few of those 800 people employed. Just saying. Also,
Yeah.
And here's my big question, because while all of this lawsuit has been going on, Epic launched this whole lawsuit by doing the most Tim Sweeney thing they possibly could have done, and basically just straight up violating Apple's terms of service for the App Store and getting Fortnite removed from the App Store. That was how they started this, right? That's what launched all of this back in like 2018, 19? Something like that.
There.
So, the reason that Tim Sweeney gave in the internal memo as to why they were going to be reducing the size of their workforce was because Fortnite has not grown the way that they projected it would over the past couple of years, and because of that, they are going to have to lay some people off because the revenue hasn't increased the way they expected it to. So, what do we think? Would Epic have seen the Fortnite growth that they had projected if they had just kept it on the App Store during all of these legal battles?
Yes.
Yes.
So
probably
basically-
more than what they projected it to be.
No, that's fair. That's fair. So basically, Tim Sweeney wanted to start off his legal battle with Apple with a dick measuring contest with Tim Cook. And he lost, got Fortnite kicked off the App Store, and then did not see the platform or the game growth. Yeah, platform growth. They want Fortnite to be a platform that they were expecting in the years since then. They have been losing their legal battle, and they are now having to lay off a bunch of people because of this dick measuring contest that Tim Sweeney lost. So, Tim Sweeney, but Tim Cook, I'm sure could just get out of your own butt, please. Like, for the benefit of the people that rely on you to get paid every month to, live in this capitalist society that they have been thrust into. So really no choice of their own. Maybe don't be a dick. Just saying.
That's a good one. Well, let's move on because we don't like layoffs and big companies fighting. So
Or Epic.
Hey, let's gonna go over to our next section here of Doom news.
So this one's not. It is technically Doom modding.
Yeah. We'll give it to you.
It's not Doom modders. But this one, I feel like, just needed to be mentioned simply because of its proximity to Keanu Reeves. So, the Cyberpunk 2077 version 2.0, which Landen has pointed out we should probably refer to as version 1.0, and previous versions of Cyberpunk 2077 were, pre-release, beta testing versions. Yeah, so that was the beta testing period for Cyberpunk 2077. We're now at the version 1.0 release finally, and version 1.0 of Cyberpunk 2077 has added an arcade cabinet in an abandoned church on the edge of the map that plays a Doom clone. It's just a really pixelated early 90s style Doom. It's not exactly Doom, but it's a very close, we'll conservatively call it an homage to Doom. I think the thing that is most amazing about this is that Doom Guy, right? Like original Doom, you had Doom Guy has his face down in the center of the bottom of the screen where you had your ammo and armor and stuff like that. And you could see how you were doing based on how his face looked, right? Like he had his 4 different expressions, and then he'd get progressively more bloody as you took damage and that kind of thing. They have that, right? They have the face of Doom Guy and whatnot. So it's Keanu Reeves. It's with his multiple expressions and the damage taking changes and stuff like that. And what a great detail.
Now, what I want, though, is someone to make a Doom mod that is Doom, but Keanu.
Ooh, you're right.
Like a playable version. That should be the next part of Doom news.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah. Somebody needs to basically take this and just make a Doom mod that mimics this game in Cyberpunk by just putting Keanu Reeves' face in place of Doom Guy in the bottom of the screen.
Yep.
Oh,
and
gosh,
if you
I'm
want
watching
to
it
put the
right
cherry
now.
on top, you could just put some Keanu sound effects in there as well.
Yes. I mean, if they really want to, they can go the whole Tim Allen approach to it and make everything in the game Keanu Reeves.
No
which
way.
version? Which version of Keanu do you get? Do you
I
get
would say
that
Bill and Ted.
80s
Ooh.
high Keanu, or do you get the Matrix? Like, you got a lot of options here.
Or do you get John Wick Keanu? Like,
I think
Yeah.
Bill and Ted.
I think some of all.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
A little bit of each of them.
The face down in the corner is Bill and Ted, for sure.
There you go. There you go.
Whoa.
Whoa.
That's awesome.
Sound effects
Good.
as well, yeah.
Yes, the sound effects would have to be too.
That's awesome.
Every time he
that'd
gets
be
shot at. Whoa.
Frickin' A.
Yep. So yeah, Doom. It's everywhere. It is lovely.
It is awesome. All right. Well, that's everything on the docket there, unless Landon's got one more thing.
Actually, I do. And normally, listener, at this point, you would have heard an air horn sound effect of some sort, but I have to play this one instead.
Uh-oh.
Because, listener, that's not everything on the docket, because Wes missed something. He just had to go on. He had to talk about the FTC being stupid and missed something from the Google stuff that I wanted to talk about.
Oh, I did?
Yep.
I guess
So-
I did.
My one more thing is more Google stuff. So, listener, Google's Pixel event is this week. It is on October 4th at 10 a.m. Eastern Time if you want to watch it. It'll be streamed on YouTube. But normally I don't talk rumors about pretty much anything because I'd rather just hear the words come from the company themselves and know for sure, okay, that's what's happening. But this one is the best, as I put it in the doc, the best and only rumor that I want to talk about before Pixel's event. And the rumor is that the Pixel 8 could be getting up to, or at least a minimum, maybe not up to, a minimum of 7 years of OS updates.
Wow.
And if that's true, I'm pretty sure that passes Apple's support when it comes to iOS on phones. Now, when it comes to different
Ooh.
devices, that's a different story. but-
it depends on the phone. I want to say
Is there a phone that's had
The
7
5S.
OS upgrades?
I think the 5S might have. But I think that one holds the record for the most versions of iOS that it supported. And it may not have been more than 7. But it's close. So
I just did a quick search, and it says the 5S got 6 major versions of iOS.
okay.
Went from iOS 7 to iOS 12.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that sounds about right. So okay, yeah, that would be, and I'm pretty sure that the 5S is the longest one that Apple's
Probably.
done. Most of the time it's about 5 years.
Yeah. So, I mean, if that's true, that's amazing.
Yeah, that'd be pretty sweet.
But the other question I have to go along with this is, if that is true, how well is iOS, what would it be, 21 work on a Pixel 8? Or not iOS, Android 21, I guess, would be not iOS, but yeah.
Yeah.
How well would
whatever
that version of Android work on a 7-year-old phone? That's my question.
I mean, that is really the question, because like I have used an iPhone 5S that was on the last version of iOS that supported it, and you talk about like features getting added to new versions of operating systems, making the operating systems run like crap on older hardware, Apple actually doesn't shy away from disabling features that are going to run like crap on older hardware. Like older versions of the iPhone just don't support all of the modern features that are in iOS, even if they are getting the upgrade. And that's just life. But in general, you know, iPhones tend to be kind of the gold standard for how well does it run on software that is 5 years newer than the hardware you're running it on. And even still, it's not amazing. So
it's like I really like the idea behind this. Yeah. But it's going to be interesting to see how it actually plays out.
Yeah, for sure.
And again, this is just a rumor.
Google might kill it. Like
that's the other question: is Google going to kill the Pixel program before that even happens?
Yep.
It's going to be like the Pixel Pass, where it was a 2-year thing. This is a 7-year thing. They're going to kill the Pixel lineup in 5 years anyway. So
right, yeah, it's never going to make it to year 7.
Yeah.
But I just that was the one rumor that I wanted to mention because I heard about it this week. I'm like, that would be a game changer. In the Androids, not just in Android, but in phone OS updates in general. Because, like I said, Apple hasn't done that before, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But that's my one more thing.
My mistake of missing that. I didn't realize I missed that. I'm sorry. My bad.
Well, after you started going on, I kind of glared at you for a minute and then also highlighted, bolded, italicized, and underlined that part of the doc. And I
actually was wondering what you were doing while we were talking. I'm like, he's doing something. I don't know. I'm not paying attention. Obviously. Big old letters been like, hey, you forgot this. My bad. Well, that's it then. That's it for the episode. Oh, dear listener, we appreciate you listening on and joining us with this episode today. If you want to get a hold of us, you can on our social media platforms. You can also get a hold of us at callingallplatforms.com. You can check out our YouTube channel at Calling All Platform Games if you want to check out streams there. Also, is there any kind of update on anything coming in the future there, Caleb?
No.
Not yet? I just wondered if there was something.
I mean, there honestly are a few things that I probably should do updates on, but I have not. So, listener, that's my bad. If you want to go to the YouTube channel and just review bomb the most recent video, a whole bunch of comments down there, because, you know, dislikes don't count. You got to actually go into the comments. Do that.
There you go. That'll get his attention. All right, dear listener, have a good week.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Calling All Platforms is a production of Supporter Sound Studios. To learn more about how you can support the podcast, go to www.patreon.com/callingallplatforms.